right, we will call this meeting of the planning commission to order at 10:14. Excuse me, 10:14, look at the date. At 6 o'clock, there we go. Yes, it's 10:14. Roll call, we have everyone in attendance. A few members are joining us online. Our solicitor, our planning director are joining us online. First item for approval are the September 11th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes September 11th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion is properly second. All in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0, motion carries. All right, I will turn this over to our planning director, Nate. You want to go through the agenda?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we have those two items following the minutes for your consideration this evening. The first will be 1470 Brookside Road, which is the 8-lot subdivision on the cul-de-sac that comes in from Harvest Fields. Even though it has a Brookside Road address, access will be taken from Lamb Terrace. We are now calling the proposed cul-de-sac Lamb Court to ensure adequate life safety response when needed for both police, fire, and EMS. Staff has reviewed the resubmission for this project, and the resubmission follows several staff level meetings that were held with the applicant's professional team, both the township engineer, landscape architect with the township engineer's office, myself, Mr. Trankuch, and others had meetings based off of comments and comment letters that were received. And from that, the most recent submission was put together and submitted to the township. As previously discussed and contemplated by the Planning Commission, we have the lots, 8 residential lots, the lot with the stormwater basin, it coming again off of Lamb Terrace. And when we last spoke, we were talking about stormwater as well as some other planning related items, such as the placement of street trees, figuring out what is currently underway with the United States Postal Service, and whether mail service will be from individual mailboxes or ganged mailboxes. Discussion of the waiver to ensure that the street trees are behind the sidewalk to make sure that we don't have any utility conflicts moving forward. Our letter, or at least my letter on the planning side, talked about the need for detailed monument design standards for the monument sign that will be at the entrance to development. That is specific towards the material, the font, lighting, and whatnot on that sign. We also have a question here where we may wish to discuss and continue to talk about ensuring that the emergency stormwater runoff from the site and any future permitting that has to be done associated with that with PennDOT is handled with basic security indemnification agreements for the satisfaction of the township solicitor, making sure that that item is handled. And then last but not least, just because we care very much about our end users, our future residents here, lot 4 does have that wetland on it, and there is a setback buffer per township ordinance that may extend into side lots. And we just want to make sure that the final plan, both the record plan and the plot plan, show that, so the residents know that they have that in their backyard when they move into their house. That's really the extent of the planning items that we have to date on this, due to the number of resubmissions and the good working relationship that we've had with the applicant to be able to have the meetings to address the items. Beyond that, I would hand it over to Mr. McAdam to talk about more technical related issues regarding the engineering side of this plan prior to the Planning Commission contemplating any recommendations this evening.
And Brian, before we begin, if the applicants want to sit up front here, I'm sure there'll be some questions. I realized that I didn't bring them up as we turned it over to Nate, so my apologies.
Do you want me to bring our plans in case you need to look at them?
Yeah, because I'm sure we'll be referencing some items. We do have it on our screen, but if you have it easily available and you wanted to put it in front of us, that's fine too. You can even rest right in front of the. I think we can all see that fine. That does pick up on the camera. Good enough.
Andy, we're gonna torture you and make you lean over the table.
Well, you'll be able to sit on the
That's what
screen,
I'm gonna do.
Vince is bringing them up for you, so. That's fine.
Good evening. Sorry.
No, all good. So we were turning it over to Brian. I apologize for not bringing you up earlier.
No, that's fine. Yeah, and we have, the engineer and the applicant and his engineer here tonight. We have a review, October 10th. We've done several reviews of the project. At this point, the remaining items are primarily cleanup items. We really don't have any issue with the planning aspects beyond what Nate has already mentioned. And I have spoken with the engineer and the items that remain in our letter, are basically all will comply. There are some waivers being requested. For the most part, they are what I keep calling the usual suspects. Nothing really outrageous. Based on discussions amongst staff, one of the waivers that will need to be added to the list is something that we've been working on with actually all the applicants of late, and that is the location of the street trees. The current ordinance requires them to be in the grass strip between the curb and sidewalk. And as most townships in the area have found that over time, trees grow, the root systems grow, and if the tree matures the way everybody wants, you wind up with roots busting up curb and sidewalk. We are in a position now where we've been recommending and requesting that the street trees be pushed to the other side of the sidewalk. And everybody has complied. Problem is, it's still an ordinance requirement to be between the curb and sidewalk, so technically speaking, so that everybody's covered, we would request that the applicant and their engineer put in an updated waiver request letter to include the location of the street trees being different from what's in the ordinance. Other than that, and that's just honestly just a formality. The other items are requests for preliminary final, the request to show all features within 200 feet of the property. As is always the case, we have a statement that basically says we can support that. As long as if anything else is needed, we will get it. And most people comply with that, so it's generally not an issue. One of the other waiver requests is from the requirement to install curb along street frontages. This is an issue that we're finding more and more is a bit awkward, I guess is the best way to say it, when there's a PennDOT road involved. As we found with the 3500 Brookside project a couple of years back, we would have preferred curbing because we felt that it helped with drainage. PennDOT said, we don't really care what you think. We're not going to approve the HOP if curbing is installed. So we had to back off from that. The applicant applied for a waiver and got it. In this instance, there's no curbing in the general vicinity of the project. And I think that because of the current drainage conditions and the continuity in this area, I highly doubt that PennDOT would approve of sidewalk in this area. So I'm supporting the waiver request in particular because we ran up against this just literally down the street. So I suspect that would be PennDOT's take as well. For this project, I think that not having curbing is not particularly a detriment. In the other project, I thought it was necessary, but in this one, there's in addition to the improvements that are proposed, which is one of which is that they are adding 2 inlets to the low point that's there right now. And that in combination with the rest of the design, I think will be an improvement to the general conditions in terms of runoff in the general vicinity of the project. So we don't have any problem with that waiver. Another one of the waivers is side slopes to the basin. We pushed back on the design, which is why there were several iterations of this plan. And what's currently proposed is a basin that is dramatically better from an aesthetic standpoint from what was previously proposed. In order to get things to not so much fit, because the changing the basin didn't going to a 3-to-1 side slopes did not jack up their unit count. It's basically the same as it would have been before. So we just generally, the way things lay out, we truly don't have a problem with the 3-to-1 side slopes. And it will be like most basins these days, it's gonna be privately owned and maintained. So the side slope is something that, you know, will have to be taken care of, but it's somebody else's issue to deal with, and 3-to-1 is manageable. It's not preferable, but it's manageable. So again, don't have any issue with that. The last waiver that's currently requested is really kind of an interesting one, only because it doesn't occur that often. And it's in regard to installation of concrete monuments and changes of direction along the right of way. When those changes of direction fall within a driveway, you can't really have a concrete monument. So typically, there's other things that are done with survey to have an iron pin installed. We don't have an issue with that. But in fairness to the applicant and their engineer, it is a requirement for the concrete monuments, and they've appropriately asked for a waiver. So there's that, and then the addition of the other waiver about the street trees that I talked about. Otherwise, like I said, everything else in the letter is really just cleanup. And I'm comfortable that we can get things addressed from an engineering standpoint.
Anything that our applicants want to add? First, I mean, I'll just start. This has changed many times. We appreciate the efforts that you've put into it. I think the project now seems much closer to what makes sense.
Yes, I believe that our first iteration wasn't the best solution, and we worked with the staff and the township professionals to come up with the best solution to develop this property for the subdivision that we're looking to build here, like land court as designed meets all the criteria for the township. The subdivision as it's designed meets all the criteria. We're asking for the 6 waivers plus the 7th one, which are all, I think, reasonable.
Yeah.
So we do know we have some outside agencies approvals, and we feel comfortable that with the plan that's in front of the board this evening, that we will get those other outside agencies approvals. We wanted to make sure the project was taken to the direction that it is today before we go back and seek additional approvals from the outside agency. It would be not beneficial.
Yeah,
Because
makes sense.
like basically PennDOT and LCA that we all know just gonna be utility connections, so it's not that big of a deal. So right now, I did review the review letter from all the staff. We don't have any objections to that.
Great.
And basically we're seeking to get some sort of conditional recognition for the additional approval, so we can move this forward up to the Board of Commissioners. And also with that, we'd like to request a recommendation of the waivers, the 6 waivers that are present plus the 7th one. And we can update that letter accordingly, so when we go to the Board of Commissioners,
Okay.
we can have that 7th waiver and include it. And that was one of the things that we talked about in great length, I think, is how to accomplish our goals and make sure we're hitting the goals of the township. And one thing was with the landscaping and the locations of the street trees and some of the other trees associated with the project.
Great.
So,
Any members of the planning commission have any questions, comments, concerns, changes, addition? I mean, we've all seen this project now a few times with the exception of but you can see the comments that come out of it. Any member from the public have a comment, question, concern? All right, hearing none. So we do have a motion that we can put forward in front of us. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion. So we'll make the motion to recommend additional approval for the 1470 Brookside Road development application, condition upon the 7 items outlined, as well as condition upon the 7 waivers and deferrals that are requested.
Additional copies of the,
I'm sorry, what was that, Maury?
or there are additional copies of the.
Usually, you know, like downstairs we have a bunch, but yeah, they're right there. So we have a motion that's been made.
I'll second that.
We have a second for a second. Discussion. Anyone here? Anyone from the public that has a comment? Hearing,
Who's second?
Ryan did. So we have a properly seconded motion, we've discussed it, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes. Motion approved. Thank you. Thank you, yes, you're welcome. All right, so the second item on the agenda is the 2550 Loop 100 Sprouts Market and Commercial Development. The applicant would like to come up. Wait, if you want to give an overview of this project.
Happy to. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Planning commissioners, members of the public, as I'm sure everyone's aware, this is another project that has appeared before the Planning Commission previously, both as a land development submission and a sketch plan, and has garnered public interest. What you see here is one of the last residual lots of the Spring Creek properties that are owned by Jandal Land Company on Route 100. The lot is at the terminus of the new Sauerkraut Lane extension, which is currently under construction. And this lot would be home to the region's first Sprouts grocery. In addition to Sprouts serving as an anchor for the site, there is the pre-existing St. Luke's MOB at the south end of the site. And in the middle, the new land development submission contemplates a bank and a retail/commercial structure. The overall site is designed with roads and paths to be interconnected and basically act as one. And we have been working in a similar fashion with the applicants from the last project in speaking with the design team for the applicants to go over review letters to discuss items such as architecture, landscape architecture, site layout, stormwater, traffic, and the like. There were a number of public comments that were given regarding this project at the last Planning Commission meeting when it appeared. And we have taken those into account and had those discussions with the applicants and internally to make sure that public concerns are addressed. I would like to note from a planning perspective, because we know that this was a big point with many of our planning commissioners, we have worked with the applicants to increase our pedestrian connectivity to 2 points on the lot coming in off of Route 100 and throughout the entirety of the site. We've also been able to work with the applicant to ensure that the streetscaping that exists along the St. Luke's portion of the site extends all the way up and around. So this site is going to have streetscaping throughout its whole route, in addition to the street trees that will be sensitive to the overhead power lines and on-site planting, as well as shielding for deliveries and garbage. I would like to note as well, we did have a staff level meeting with the applicants to talk about another issue that was brought before the Planning Commission that was of great interest, and that was the architecture of the Sprouts and the architecture of the site. And Mr. Tranguch, I don't know if you have the ability to pull it up, but I do recall planning commissioners having questions and concerns with respect to the Route 100 frontage, which we also wanted to talk about at the staff level. This is a prototype structure for Sprouts where they're building new stores. And we were able to work together in tandem to make sure that not only the main entrance includes that overhang, signage, and parapet with the barn shape that you see at the front of the store, but also a side treatment that will include a sign for this, basically for Sprouts, as well as the parapet, some gooseneck lights, differing masonry throughout the structure as you move along, and some faux windows. So we will get both frontages receiving treatment, which will help us out aesthetically for the site. And in addition to the landscaping and the streetscaping with the street wall, we're very pleased with how the site will eventually be constructed and look. In the vein of talking about architecture, we did have the discussion with the applicants and do recognize that the bank and the commercial pad have no users yet. So from an architectural perspective, we're not sure what the structures will look like. And in fact, they could change should new users come in. We do see that happen from time to time, in which case the plan would be back before the Planning Commission. Staff recommends that we have a condition in place that just notes that the architecture will be substantially similar to the Sprouts and the St. Luke's building, and carry that level of excellence that we're seeing here at the site. And to our understanding that that's not a concern in any way, shape, or form. We're thinking that the site is going to shape up quite nicely as it gets built out over the years. Moving away from the construction side, where the site takes its access from the new Sauerkraut Lane extension. On the north end of the site, we also worked with the applicant as well as their landscape architects to talk about the stormwater treatment on the opposite side near the existing residences on Quarry, as well as visible from Route 100. And we are now working with a potential site design that really, from a landscape architecture standpoint and plantings, meets our Brandywine Swale / Firehouse project that we as a township did, that we point to as what we really look for in terms of both naturalization and aesthetics for our stormwater structures moving forward. There's a number of flowering trees, specimen trees that are located, seed mixes that include plenty of meadow plantings that'll provide interest from spring all the way to fall. So we're very happy that we were able to work with the design team to get such a great product that'll be visible from such a busy street. And again, another large landscape stormwater treatment facility that meets our township's goals. We've also spoken with the applicants about the fact that this is a very important pedestrian and biking area for the township as we continue to try and weave together our greenway and trail network. To the north is Creamery Park, to the west is Quarry Park. We also have our future greenway that runs along the creek, not too far up the road. And of course, all of our residential neighborhoods that immediately abut this area off of Sauerkraut Lane. We're very excited that this area can basically act as a nexus for all these trails, hopefully moving forward. And we have noted and spoken with the applicants about the possibility of putting in frontage improvements that consist of paved trails, since this is land development activity, both on Quarry and on Route 100. I believe they want to speak with the Planning Commission about that a little bit further moving forward into their presentation. But again, given the location here and the Sauerkraut Lane intersection, which will also include pedestrian improvements, we are very excited that this area can work to connect so many of the trails and parks that we have in this area of the township, and eventually our greenway along the creek. Overall, working with the applicant has been quite successful on both sides, I would say, in putting together a very quality product that we're hoping the neighbors as well as passersby on Route 100 will be able to appreciate. And with that, as far as planning items go, we are essentially satisfied on our township staff side. There are technical items regarding stormwater and traffic and site design that I would like to hand over to Mr. McAdam to explain in a little bit more detail. But I think it is important to go on to note that after a number of the items I brought up here today, we are essentially, due to the grid meetings that we've had with the applicant, see a lot of our planning items taken care of and have satisfied.
All right, I think we're turning it over to you for any
Guess I'm up.
comments. Yes.
Yeah, from the engineering side, I have spoken with the engineer and the applicant, and the few items of concern that I had regarding stormwater management will be addressed. I had a little bit of concern only because it just in my mind, it was like, I'd rather have this done than that. And we had a very productive conversation this morning about the approach and how it will be addressed. And I'm extremely comfortable that everything can be addressed. I don't want to speak for Brent or for Rocco. Rocco is with General and Brent is with Pitcock. I don't want to speak for them, but I feel comfortable saying that everything in my letters will comply. From an engineering standpoint, without getting too deep in these things, I will say that the project like most, will require an NPDES permit. Because of all the frontage improvements, it requires an HOP from PennDOT. I don't recall what had been discussed at previous planning commission meetings. But as a sort of as quick as I can, history, the frontage improvements that are here have been in the mix for more than a few years. Previous developments had an HOP for improvements along Route 100. That changed with the advent of the Sauerkraut Lane extension. A while back, our office compared the two sets of plans, and what the township will eventually get is over and above what was previously approved, because it was what was needed at that time. The current proposal is steps away from being approved by PennDOT, is our understanding. After a lot of hard work on everybody's part, between right-of-way acquisition and just general negotiations and discussions with the residents in the area, and just, it's a really, frankly, monumental task to build, even though the Sauerkraut Lane extension was effectively mostly through open fields. It really was something that took a lot of time and effort to get to where we are. Once that HOP is issued, it will allow for the completion of Sauerkraut Lane extension, which obviously the township is extremely excited to see and see it happen. But that also opens up the opportunity for this development to happen. You know, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, but we have in our letter, just to sort of cover everybody's bases, you know, that any approval of this project is contingent on Sauerkraut Lane extension being complete. Having said that, the whole HOP process has been extremely complex for a lot of different reasons. The applicant and their team they are reaching the end of that very long road, no pun intended. And so there's that. And then with the stormwater management design, people may recall that there are two facilities roughly where the retail box is and where the bank is, that were done as part of the MLB project. Another kind of long planning aspect on behalf of the Jandal group is that it was always contemplated that this parcel was going to be further developed, and when the right project came along, and I think Sprouts offered that opportunity, as did the kind of movement with the HOP for the Sauerkraut Lane extension. So having said that, there's two existing facilities on the current parcel. They will go away and be replaced by the basin that's on the, I'll say, looking at the screen to the right, basically to the north of the Sauerkraut Lane extension on its own parcel. There will be two basins. They are slightly different from what was on the current HOP set. And that is purely because of ongoing conversations between the applicant and their design folks and the conservation district. We've been kept in the loop on all of that. We're comfortable with what's proposed. There's stuff in my letter, yes, that has to be addressed, but nothing in my letter is going to dramatically change what's been proposed. I'm comfortable that the release rate, volume control, water quality, all that stuff will be completely compliant. It's just because of so many entities being involved, it's a little bit more complex than usual. And it's been, I'm sure it's been difficult on their side trying to make sure that they satisfy everybody. But because they've done a nice job of keeping us posted on where things are and where they're going, I am confident that even though I have comments on my letter related to stormwater, they can be addressed. Other than that, honestly, it's really pretty straightforward. There's an existing sanitary sewer line that runs on the, what I'll call top of the page, so to speak. That was installed as part of the St. Luke's MOB project. It's currently private. The intention was always that sewer main would be turned over to the township once something else happened, which is now this project. So prior to this being completed, we'll go through, get inspection video, the whole 9 yards, and that sewer run will be turned over to the township. And then for each of the three buildings, there's proposed lateral connections that will be private. Other than that, you know, it's a by right project rather. Couple of boxes and a bunch of parking. You know, from my perspective, it's fairly straightforward. I do realize that there might be other concerns, but for all of the complexities with the outside agencies and the timing of everything, you know, when you really get down to it, the project in and of itself is fairly straightforward. I would not have an issue if the planning commission was inclined to make a recommendation based on where we're at right now.
Great. For the record, if the applicants want to introduce themselves and then add any additional comments that you wanted to add into the presentation.
Sure, Brent Tucker from the Big Five Company, project engineer. Thank you, Brian and Nate. Kind of stole my thunder. I was gonna come in here and tell you all the great things that we did to the plan,
Yes.
and they already told me, so. That's my presentation, a little short, but that's great. We did receive Brian's letter. His characterization, I would agree with. It's a complicated project, so there are some comments there asking for clarifications. You know, Brian's group's had a couple of chances to look at the plan. You know, it's understandable to have some questions in something this complicated. We have no problem, no objection to the letter. We'll address all the comments, not a problem. You know, we've spoken about it and have clear resolution, I think, to all the items. We perfectly recognize that this project depends on the Sauerkraut main extension and the improvements. Obviously, those have to be built, nothing can be built on the site, maybe concurrently, but we can't open anything on the site until those improvements are in and functioning. So as far as land development, I guess with Nate and Brian's presentation, that's about all I have. On the pedestrian connectivity on the basin side, I guess I'm not trying to be combative, but is that seen as a required improvement, or is that?
Yes.
Because I don't, and putting this together, I guess I don't see that basin lot as a land development, and maybe I'm wrong, but. If I look at the definition of land development, the South language like it's a contiguous lots, they're not contiguous. It's focused on building a building, a residential and non-residential building, there's no buildings on that track. The way I viewed that improvement was as being permitted under the agricultural preservation overlay district, which permits utilities and stormwater infrastructure to be constructed in the aging district. And those improvements can serve any purpose in the town. So not really part of the land development, which is why we don't have any kind of building restriction lines or any of that stuff on the plan.
If I can offer some maybe opinion or direction,
Sure.
extremely excited that Sauerkraut Lane will be finished. Excited about the building frontage improvements and kind of the design that we're seeing. And then I'd be very excited for trails and connectivity, so that helps with the direction.
Yeah, we would take all.
I think, if I may, another way to look at it. Is that the nature of the way these parcels fall is such that it's always been contemplated, I believe, that parcel was gonna get the basin. Whether it turned into two basins because of, you know, permitting and stuff, but realistically. I understand what you're saying, Brent, but it's. You need the basin to build the project. And it just so happens that it's where it is and not the same parcel. So if that basin doesn't get built there, then you gotta do it on site, which means something dramatic's gotta change. And we're not trying to push that and say, well, you gotta do it all on the same project so that we comply with your interpretation that it's, you know, some on the same property where something's being built. You know, we tend to look at it like it is part of the development. You know,
So I'm Rocco Caracciolo, project manager for Janeway Company. And everything that's been said, yes, I agree. I wanna touch on the trailway at the end. The one thing that Nate said about the retail and the bank. Yes, Nate's correct, that's very market driven. We now making great progress, now we have a plan in front of us, and we've identified the great anchor with Sprouts and another great anchor with the MOB. I can't really say who we're looking at now, but we definitely will, this is gonna be our project, we're gonna own it, we're gonna lease it, we want it to look great. So the facades will definitely be right in play with both what we're doing with Sprouts now and the MOB. Other things too, as we look at the Route 100, the commercial part of it, some of the great things that were brought up is outdoor seating, things like that. There are things that, as we look at it and market it, they're being discussed, so there are things that I think we can tie into this project. So if that could be the condition of approval, I can't show you right now what these two buildings look like, because I don't even know exactly their sizes, dimensions, and who's gonna be the tenants for them. The talk did come up about outdoor seating for Sprouts. I discussed that with Sprouts. They do not do that. They do not allow that. That's why for myself, I know I'm kind of pushing. I'm just a project manager, but pushing it to make that work. So I think that would be great as a condition. As far as the trailer, we have no objection. I had a big meeting with Mr. Jano, both his sons tonight. The trailway sounds great, a 2-minute pathway, great. We, though, would like to have that deferred, as things get planned out. And the one thing I want to caution is to have this run, soldier down Route 100, all the way down, so then it goes this Columbine Road. What that does is that just becomes a magnet for people to walk down Columbine and try to have a mid-block crossing or a mid-crossing on Route 100, which is very, very dangerous to pick up. I envision it more as the trail, because I know township property surrounds it as a meandering pathway, Cuban's pathway that'll go up and then hit destination points that the township has. I was very early in doing this for way too long, 37 years. Very early in my career, I was involved in a design that had a big block crossing, and one resident came through, blew through, and hit another. It was tragic. Everybody got sued. Actually, myself, I didn't, because where that pathway went to the second phase. I had moved on, I did the first phase, but I was brought into it to look at it and, answer questions and everything. It's dangerous and it's tough to really, it's tough to make it work well. So what we're thinking right now is we have no objection to it. It's a great idea. We definitely want to help connect. Just defer it until it can be talked through, and then we actually have meetings like we did. So our meetings with Nate and Brian, they really worked well to get to where we are now, and I'm sure we can get to a happy place with that.
So with trail, I think what you're saying is, once the trail is established on the preserved land that abuts this, you have no problem in installing it. But because the terminus of that would come out near Columbine Road, you feel it's a safety concern now.
Right, if it's put it down without any direction, if it's just put it in and it stops, and then it just looks like it was made for people, hey, let me cross the street to go up. There's much safer ways, they can actually go up Columbine, take Iris, and walk down. I know people don't like to walk, but if anybody's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna go walk to the new Sprouts or walk to the new whatever store is there, they're healthy and robust, so a little bit more. It's just, with it being a state highway, traffic is very fast on the highway. We can't put, the biggest solution for that is like a speed bump that comes up and the crossing is on that. There's no way we put that over $110 in the ballot, so
We would not want that.
yeah.
No.
So I just like to have more thought to put in that this is what everybody wants. We'll definitely agree to it as a condition. But we can't. Just right now, I don't want the condition to be something that's not safe. And then I actually put my engineer there because he's gonna sign the,
And to Rocco's point, we certainly would not encourage mid-block crossings, not on Route 100 for sure. But in the spirit of planning, and the township is, as you're aware, wants walkable communities and has spent a lot of time and effort trying to provide the residents with a really, really nice trail system throughout the township. So I think hearing that you're amenable to doing it, but at the appropriate time with planning and whatnot, and that'll certainly be up to the township. I just wanted to clarify, we are not encouraging mid-block crossings. And I know you're not saying that we are, I'm just saying in general, we would not approve that either. And I called it the PennDOT plans. There, let me just see, I don't recall exactly what is going on at the intersection with the South Prairie Lane extension. As far as crosswalks and whatnot.
Yeah, it's full crosswalks on both sides.
Yeah, it
Yeah, full crosswalk both sides, all you actually do is that
right.
All of them.
is made for that, you know, that is made.
Exactly, but that's, I guess, to the point of connectivity. You know, we certainly would want any pedestrians crossing where there is an intersection signal, you know, push buttons, the whole 9 yards. And it's really a matter, and I'm sure you guys both have dealt with this before. It's a matter of we even if it doesn't connect to something directly right now, it could happen. And with the township now owning the Muse property, there's much more likelihood of something going in sooner rather than later. So I will leave it to the township to decide whether the deferral would be acceptable or not. But I understand where you're coming from. So I kind of want to promote what the township wants as, you know, much as possible, and say that we, you know, we're on board with the doing it right component. So.
Excellent. Any members from the planning commission want to add comment to that sentiment of deferring it instead of making happening as the storm drains are created, the basins, I should say, created.
So the property to the east, is that, you said that's owned by the township?
To the.
Yeah, the Muse property.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is oriented differently.
I think it's actually to the north.
Yeah, is that the property that goes all the way to Creamery?
Yes.
Yes,
So.
So this is all township property here, right?
As of, so a couple months ago.
Is there a walkway on the other side of the line?
Here, no.
So the idea, Ryan, one of the ideas that prompted this additional request is obviously Quarry Park. You know, Township Park is literally right down Sour Grove Line Extension. So that, you know, there's a need. It's just a matter of trying to build this in as projects are proposed, so.
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely want to see the interconnecting this, but I understand the safety concerns. Does the township have any plans the next 5 years, 10 years to provide that walkway on the Muse properties?
I mean, nothing on paper right now,
Right.
but yeah, so it's connectivity, like Brian had said, is a goal of the township. Now that the township has acquired that property, do want to make a connection with Quarry. I'm not 100% sure how and where at this point, but we're looking for other property owners to, you know, have that connectivity for us and connect to the lines.
And I would add that the township already has a whole lot of other type things in the mix. And I think with the relatively recent acquisition of Muse, that will be factored in to future projects. And it's just kind of with any planning for future parks, et cetera, it's in my experience, it's hard for townships because you could get 10 different people and have 10 different opinions of what should go on that public property. Some people might want more ball fields, some people might want lit ball fields, some people might want softball, they might want, you know, lacrosse, whatever. And something as simple as maybe a passive park where you just have paths or something, that's an option as well. And I think it's recent enough, the acquisition of this parcel was recent enough that I can't say for sure how quickly a plan will come together. But I think given how much effort the township makes to kind of beautify and provide, you know, stuff for the township residents, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens sooner than later. Particularly now that Sauerkraut Lane Extension is going to actually be finished. You know, I think it really kind of literally and figuratively opens up a lot in that area, even though right now there's not much there.
See the value of deferring him, but. No, I think there's value of. Pushing the township to, put that in.
I would say this, and maybe this is hopefully foreshadowing. I would say that if anything was going to be prioritized, this is right next to two major parks that are actively used all the time. And that would create massive connectivity, and it doesn't happen in some of the other preserved pieces of land. You know, they just don't have that kind of connectivity. But for these to be so close to other parks, I could see it being prioritized versus something that's passed on for a decade, you know, something that the connectivity of trails and pathways, the greenway master plan, all that sort of stuff, I think is important, and this would seem like it would fit right into that. So maybe a little more urgency.
And I think I don't want to step on the solicitor's toes, but I think that if it becomes an improvement that's deferred, I think the applicant would work with the township in terms of how to structure the deferral. You know, if there's a time frame associated or whatever, I'm pretty comfortable saying that can be worked out. Particularly because Wes is right. I mean, you have two township parks. The township acquiring the Muse tract was huge.
Yeah.
So I think it will probably dramatically change how things get prioritized. Because right now, at least relative to what we've been working on, it's been really kind of catching up with a lot of the existing parks and adding ADA accessible pathways and ramps and things like that. In addition to trying to put together other pathways elsewhere. But this to me is a little different, and I'm not saying it just because we're talking about the Sprouts project, but it's really kind of true. And we can't just jump in and just arbitrarily start spending tax dollars on stuff. And I know you're not suggesting, I'm just saying, I'm just kind of feeding the idea that, you know, sometimes the planning, it's, I just wanted to gently remind everybody, the township really just acquired this fairly recently. So I'm sure those discussions are going to happen about all of that. And similarly, it will have to factor in timing on the deferral. Because technically, the township always has the right, it's a first-class township. Township has the right to say to a property owner, you gotta put sidewalk. In this regard, we're looking for a pedestrian path, like a bituminous path, not necessarily just street. But that's something to be.
We're talking about just the 100 side, we're not, are we requiring it to go down 40?
Yeah, what I was thinking when we were discussing this a little bit this morning. Is that it would come, you know, obviously only within the confines of the property, but run along here. Right, and then when you get to here, the old, soon to be abandoned part of Quarry Road. Kind of whip up and tie into the paving that currently is shown going over by the basin. Because this stretch here effectively is just a private driveway for those 6 houses that will remain. The Sauerkraut Lane Extension already has sidewalk proposed on both sides that will physically be installed. The reason I'm thinking, and we were kicking around whipping it up here, is because this existing dwelling, which, as far as we're all concerned, is to remain for some time that, you know, we have it's private property, we have no control over it, but the proximity to Route 100 is such that I'm not sure it would be physically feasible to connect through there, on top of the fact that it's somebody else's problem. We couldn't go in and particularly demand it, especially since it's kind of like, from a construction standpoint, it's dicey at best, I think, just from a safety standpoint and proximity to the existing structure. So we were thinking, since that paving goes up generally off the screen and then ties in, that would be a safe way for pedestrians to kind of kick over to Sauerkraut Lane Extension, under the current circumstances.
And just for the clarification, because I think we did talk about it, the terminus of Quarry comes. It. How do we connect to Sauerkraut, the extension? How does it, when it gets to the end of that road, how does it connect into Sauerkraut?
And what's on the plans, it literally just kind of goes up and turns 90 degrees roughly
Okay,
to the left, so to speak.
Yeah, we don't have that connection, we don't have that shown,
right,
Yeah,
but that's
That is
exactly,
happening.
yeah, so then that will
Okay.
continue.
okay. That's what I thought, I just wasn't sure if it,
There will be no access from Route 100 anymore.
right, yeah, just coming off.
Yeah,
of-
that is something that we're actually requesting on the final record plan for this, that we have cleared up, since it'll be a final record plan showing the terminus of the road. And making it clear when this gets recorded, showing that Quarry is separate. And those residences will take access onto the Sauerkraut Lane extension only.
all right,
Yeah, makes sense.
kind of stepping on Nate's toes for all that planning talk, but
Well, if I could jump in, Rocco, you said you're fine with the condition. You just want the deferral as far as the design and planning of the trail goes, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
we just spent 20 minutes on.
It's good to let it get flushed out though. 'Cause
I don't like to interrupt you, Brian, but that was the bottom line, I think, when Rocco said it. So it's just a matter of, obviously you have to submit a request for the deferral before you get to the board in writing. Those have to be in writing. So we could just work out between now and then the condition in front of the board as far as whether they're fine with the deferral and what the timing of it would be. If there's going to be a time limit on the deferral.
So I think we've covered most of the big items here. Only one other item, and I just want a clarification so everyone's on the same page. So the proposed additional buildings. We're approving them with an assumption of what they'll be. We don't know what it will be because it could be something different and that'll be determined by the market. We're giving basic passage of saying they'll meet the preferred design standards. But will that project come back to us if it is something other than the two things that are listed? Or will it, even if it are those two things that are listed, will it still come back to us for some level of input? I recognize that this is different than the normal process.
Yeah,
I can take that, Mr. Barrett. So essentially, the footprint that you see and the uses as proposed are what would be considered and approved for recommendation by the Planning Commission and eventually by the Board of Commissioners, and then recorded. If the footprints of those structures change, if the use significantly changes, if the layout of the site and where those buildings are located changes, that would be an amendment to the approved plan, which would require the plan to be re-recorded, which means it would come back to the Planning Commission and back to the Board of Commissioners. If the footprint and the layout stays exactly as it is right now with that square footage and the building placement doesn't change, that wouldn't be the case. But should the market change and they find a tenant who has different needs, there's the possibility that they could come back in front of this board. Yes.
Okay,
That's fully acknowledged.
yeah,
Any kind of change will be back by time. I'm not gonna try to.
yeah, no, I recognize that, but again, this is a unique project for
Yeah.
a number of reasons, so. Okay, so what we're approving is we're approving the project that we've mainly talked about, we're technically approving two others, but we'll probably hear back from you when.
if I have my crystal ball out, you'll see us again.
Yeah.
When we get.
I also want to just clarify the assumptions, you're talking about assumptions, I think the assumption, the deferral for connectivity is not something that's 10 years, 3 years, 5 years. The assumption is that that's a timely decision, that deferral for the connectivity.
As long as the
Contingent
township
on,
builds a path.
but it's contingent on these upstream decisions, but it should be timely.
Well, it really would be up to the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
At time, they would defer at a time when they deemed it possible to, make that, or that the Board of Commissioners would want that connection.
But that will be built into that deferral, the time,
Yes, some time, a timeframe, yes,
a time frame.
a timeframe will be built in, I'd rather let Mark
That's gonna be.
give you a better answer, but I would think that there has to be some sort of,
Yes,
something tangible.
yes,
And I think that what I was describing earlier about the unknowns with planning out township parks and stuff, it wouldn't particularly be tied to that.
I agree.
It would be tied to when the board determines that they want that path.
Right.
Purely that. The rest of it is on them. This deferral of the connection from, along the Route 100 frontage up to former Quarry Road, that will be written in relative to this project.
Yes, because we overcomplicated it. It's deferred
Yes,
by the board.
yes,
Not this other stuff.
correct.
I just wanted to make sure those assumptions are clear.
Yes, and,
Not this other stuff.
and,
When the board says build it, you will build it.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly,
Yes.
and what Rocco was alluding to was in terms of design and trying to make sure it's done right. Where that will be discussed, it was entirely appropriate to make that statement.
Mhm.
It's just that the discussion of the deferral is contingent on this project only. Yes.
All these assumptions.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. It's correct.
Makes sense.
Excellent.
Makes sense.
All right. Any comments from any other planning commission members? Any comments from the public?
I have a comment.
Oh, we'll get right to it, yeah.
I speak up fast enough. Can you go with the renderings, please?
Sure.
So first of all, I really appreciate the updated renderings. It gives us a good sense of what's gonna be seen on the Route 100 side. So if you scroll down a little bit, Vince. I'm looking at the plan. The northeast elevation. And I see there's gates, which refers to a fence. Then I look above there, the fence looks transparent. Is that considered? Well, sorry, now there's dumpsters being shown behind that, which are visible from 100.
Just good eye. No, that will not be,
Yeah, the way I understand, that's gonna be, you can't see through that.
yeah, that would definitely be,
Okay.
I actually asked that question. Browns said you can't see.
yeah, you'll be screened, we'll get the products. That's one of the things where we're at now too, which is why we really. I really appreciate the recommendation is Sprouts is at a point now where we have a lease sign, we moved so far. And they're like, okay, we want design documents, we wanna prepare, and we need to go under that contract form, so it's the next step, and that's why the approval from the township would be. Conditional approval recommendation can go in for it, but no, we can wait now and make that a condition, that will definitely not be secret, you'll be screened completely.
Great, thank you.
Comments from the public? Just say your name for the record.
Yeah, Mike Siebel, 1939 Astor Road. I'm the only one in this room who actually has a distinct possibility of walking here. Because I live in H Oaks, west, so I have several concerns and most of them have been addressed, but I want to make sure that they're addressed. And they're not the developer's issues, they're more my issues if I want to walk there, which I can. First of all, deferring the trails is an excellent idea by the applicant. I'm concerned because I want to walk there, but I'm not, like you said, I'm not gonna cross at Columbine or Foxglove. I'll be dead in a matter of a few days if I keep doing that. What I want to make sure is that I don't mind going down Sauerkraut and going up to the light and hitting it. I think most of the people, including all the people who live at Spring Ridge, and you're talking, probably 150, 200 people who live over there in those condos are gonna go walking right across the street. I wanna make sure that there's countdown timers at those crosswalks and bird whistles. That's an absolute mandatory, that's not shown on the plan here, so I don't know that. But I, as a resident, I wanna make sure I can safely go across that road. And have bird whistles and a countdown timer, so I'm not sitting in the middle of the road waiting for an 18-wheeler to hit me. So, that's my first concern. The second one is connection of the trails to the news track. Yeah, I've been instrumental working with this township for 20 years trying to get a hold of that track. It finally come through deferring it is the best thing to do, so we know where those trails are gonna be. So I'm fully enthused that you guys are gonna defer it, and with Brian and everybody else on the board, I'm sure that they'll work out a timetable and make it work. Because that greenway is going to eventually connect to the H&O's conservation area in the next 15 years. Second reason why I'm in favor of everybody coming to this intersection to gain access from H&O's west. Is because there is no way that you're gonna get me to cross the street at Route 100 in Spring Creek. Even if you put trails over there, because that's too long of a walk to try to make it across the street for anybody. This is where people are gonna cross to get in access there. And I just wanna make sure it's safety wise, the township has spent every bit of money that they have in their traffic impact fee. To make that intersection absolutely pedestrian safe. We have traffic impact fees money, not just Mr. General contributing it, but we have monies in there just for this intersection for the Route 100. I'd like to see it spent there. As far as other traffic issues here, that's not really clear to me. The driveway behind the doctor's office, which is my family physician, which I could walk to in St. Luke's, along with the driveway that they're proposing, that is a shortcut for trucks. I want to see something back there to deter trucks from using that as a shortcut, as well as the MAC workers coming out at shift time, running across there to avoid the intersection at Shonick Road and Route 100. It will be a shortcut, and I'm telling you right now, I see it all the time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The peak hour times don't line up with the normal peak hour times at PennDOT. At 2:30 in the afternoon till 3:30, 4 o'clock, it's a madhouse down there. And they will be, when the light backs up at Shonick, you're gonna take that shortcut and come out to Sauerkraut Road. And Sauerkraut Road, that driveway between there behind the doctor's offices in here will become a speed trap. What I'd like to see is some type of like speed humps in there or something, or signs saying no trucks allowed through there, or our employees cutting through there for Mack trucks just to get over to Sauerkraut Road when the light backs up at Shonick Road. Because the cars back up all the way halfway down Shonick Road around the bend to the warehouses. So that's an issue that needs to be carefully looked at. As far as moving the basins over to the other side, stormwater basins, I'm all in favor of that, but you guys have a valuable asset there that you're not capitalizing on. If anybody is sat out there in the afternoons and the evenings, you'll see wild egrets and everything else in those basins that are already existing on that site. There's Keats families that cross Route 100 there. When you put those basins on the other side, you're gonna have that even more. What I would like to do is maybe consider making it more of a wet marsh to try to keep them in there rather than eating all the grass around there and coming out of the road and getting run over. So please look at that in the long term. Again, I think Mr. General moving those basins over there is a smart idea. And I think that's gonna work, and you guys are gonna have a nice, beautiful facility there. And I think you're gonna be quite surprised the amount of bird and different fowl that are gonna be in those basins. I promise you, there will be a ton of them. When you go into the farmer's field right down the street from here, there's egrets and there's people, there's bird watchers out there taking pictures constantly of the egrets and the herons and everything else out in that field that dries up every 3 months. So please take advantage of that. Lastly, the parking lot around Sprouts. I'm somewhat concerned when the first sketch plans came in that you had parking spaces up against the building. And they weren't all handicapped. I've been down to BJ's down in Montgomeryville, which has a very similar setup like this. And they put all their handicap spots up against the building. They don't make them for any normal person. And the reason why is because the sidewalk runs in with the parking lot elevations, and you don't really need any big ramps. And it's easy for people to get out of the handicapped people, get out and walk to the sidewalk and go right into the store, rather than cross that one strip that's, in front of the store on 50 Sauerkraut, so I'd like to see them, if you have 20 spaces that are there for handicap, I'd like to see them all around the building. So that would be an issue. When you went back to the plan where it shows the wall on the one facing Route 100, it looked like the back end of the wall wasn't finished. Can you please explain to me what that is? It's on right there where you got where it's blocked with the black marker there, right above there to the right. What is that?
Where am I?
Right there, right where you had the mouse.
Here.
Yeah, what is that?
Let's do this.
That's the recessed view of the loading dock, which is why it's a different shade, it'll be the same color, of course. And in front of it, it's exactly what Brian brought up. We have to make sure we get that screen properly, and we will address that with Sprouts. And that'll be given the same type of decorative finish.
Okay, that it wasn't evident to me.
Yeah.
That's why.
No, I mean, very good point.
So I wanted to point that out. The windows added on there is a great thing, now that that blank wall was gone. You know, the only other thing I can think of that you can architecturally do to that building is if the HVAC units are on the top of the building, that you may wanna try to hide them. I don't know if that overhang there will be able to hide them, but that's one of the things you may wanna do. So if you're looking out on a Route 100, you don't see the units on top. You're actually looking at the advertisement on the side of the building. Other than that, I think it's a great look, great thing there, and hopefully you'll take some of my suggestions and incorporate it in the plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike, appreciate it.
One quick thing. I kind of don't want to try to address every single thing, but I will. One comment that I think is appropriate to make is, as I alluded to before, there's a lot of different agencies involved and a lot of things that are going on with the PennDOT permit. Just to put your mind at ease, the reason there's no detail for any of the traffic related stuff, the land development plans, as is usually the custom, show basically generic, not generic as in sketchy, but the base setup for what will happen with the PennDOT improvements. There is a specific set of PennDOT plans, and there is a specific traffic signal permit plan, all of which are part of the project, but the PennDOT stuff is almost always separate. And while you were going through your list of items, I can tell you for sure that there are push button, signals for pedestrians. As far as the sound, it doesn't particularly say that on here, but I will say that I think most of the time that's a pretty standard requirement these days. So the signal as proposed will have all the, no pun intended, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, I was just concerned because I know you don't put out the HOP plan here, still probably not even approved at this point, but I know the township has a traffic impact fee and monies that could be associated with the pedestrian safety that could be used.
Understood, but this is not on the township. This is all getting done by the applicant, and it will get done to current standards.
I understand that, but I just wanna make sure that that's why we have a traffic impact fee. If there's some things that we feel that need to be going there and the developer can't commit to it, I'm willing to say, hey, let's take some of the township money and make it as safe as possible, especially with countdown timers.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments from the public? Maury?
Just a couple of clarifications. One is, what is the configuration of lanes on Route 100 going to you?
Yeah, try it, sorry.
There's been a talking about deferrals, there's been a deferral for the last 25 years from putting in a left turn lane on Route 100 England South. That was done when condominiums were originally built. And So is there a left turn lane, a right turn lane, a through and right, or what kind of configuration is 100 going to be? Trying to get that. Trying to get that one.
Yeah, it's a left through right, does everything.
What?
So, Route 100 going north at that point there's dedicated left turn lanes, the through lane and a right turn lane.
And same on the other side.
Same thing on the other side.
So you're talking coming out of Sour Patch,
There would be a left turn from both south and north. Is that?
Yeah, if you go to the next sheet, I think it's-
oh, next sheet,
yeah, you can see the southbound, which I think is.
you have any sheets,
Yeah.
do you have any sheets without the, like triangle?
Oh, that's it, no. That's- But so southbound, right, you have the, if you have right turn lane through the left, I mean, heading to South Road. I say east. And then the
So- I have the HOP plans up on my screen. At the intersection, I wanna make sure I get the orientation correct. Northbound Route 100 will have a separate left turn lane to go to South Carolina Extension heading west. It will have a through lane, and then there's a 5-foot shoulder, 8-foot shoulder. 8-foot shoulder. Southbound Route 100 will have a dedicated right turn lane, a through lane, and a dedicated left to turn eastbound current Sauerkraut lane. Similarly, Sauerkraut lane extension, going west to east will have a through lane and then dedicated right lane, dedicated left lane. The same exact configuration will be on existing Sauerkraut heading westbound.
So it would be like 6 lanes. Route 100 would be divided into 6 lanes there. The decel lanes are 3 lanes. and
Four. 2, 3, 4. 4.
with shoulders.
Yeah.
a right turn decel, okay, so going east to whatever, the hell it was.
And I, so. Sour Lane.
Yeah.
Existing, closed.
Right.
I think it, so on the tabs up top,
So.
Thank you. it says meetings right here. I think you might have.
And.
Yeah,
I'm somehow kind of want to get that board up, dedicated light.
Maybe we're gonna get
On the.
have you ever
Hope
seen,
we don't get.
have you ever seen it?
No.
Those are amazing.
Okay. You go.
Right.
Like I said, the.
Lane, well, but Nate,
Basically.
So,
Yeah, no, they.
And
They are, don't worry, in there.
the other question is. With the 2 contingent on. Okay, I never got a clear picture of exactly how the. Stern rate training was gonna work, but there's a pipe that's going from the. St. Luke's Medical Building into the existing pond. And I assume that pipe will be just continued on. Through an easement, number 1, where's the easement? And. Then also for the additional stormwater that's generated by the main, Strouds and so forth. How is that being collected and passed through to the ponds in the other area? And what happens if there's overflow from, beyond 100-year flooding?
Frank, you know what
So-
page, no, not to interrupt, you know what page that is?
We just grading utility plan, probably 4 or 5.
Probably sheet 8.
Well, you don't know these by heart?
Sheet
Uh,
8.
wait a minute.
It'd be sheet 8
I can't count.
to show the on-site stuff. So I think,
Generally, to answer your question,
Right here.
there's storm sewer on site to collect the MLB and all the improved. And run off from all the improvements.
next one
There's
is
really 2 trunk lines. that leave the property into Sauerkraut Lane Extension and Route 100. Those two lines go around the Miller property in Route 100 and discharge separately to each facility. So I could maybe narrate a little bit.
So they're using PennDOT right away.
Yes.
For the
Yeah.
instant.
Right, so one trunk line comes into Sauerkraut Lane Extension low point. Comes around the Miller property, gets to the upper basin. Another trunk line follows the curb line, the easterly curb line of the site, comes out into the PennDOT right away, around, and goes to the lower basin.
Any other questions?
How big are those pipes? Or run from?
There are 30, in the PennDOT pipe is big, it's probably 36, 48.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're 36 or 42 or 48.
Yeah, and the woman's Sauerkraut made smaller. 24 maybe.
Thank you.
I have a question about, if you have planned to include any EV parking between the two buildings, EV parking.
EV charging stations.
We're looking into it.
So just to clarify, that's not in the 2010 ordinance like it is now in our ordinance, so it would be something that the Jamal team would do voluntarily to meet standards now, so.
Any other questions?
I have one more question.
Go ahead,
On the
Mike.
stormwater discharge pipes in there,
Is it actually being able to reach a conveyance channel there, or are we going to provide monthly news properly for them to take that water?
So we're dumping into the same channel that's being created by the Ancient Oaks South Knowledge. So 48-inch pipe under Route 100 there from Ancient Oaks, it discharges now through the Muse property into a channel. We're reducing rates and volumes from our project, only taking credit for redevelopment. The redevelopment runoff that reaches there. And greatly reducing the rate volume so that it's not irritable.
So you don't anticipate erosion of those points to the existing pipe?
Okay. Matter of fact, if the basin outlet is above the basin inverse, the penetration is.
I
Yeah, so most 90% of the storms, there won't be any issue.
Okay.
All right, one more time, any other questions? All right, so we have a motion in front of us. I don't think that we need to make any changes to it based on this discussion. But, or do we need to make a change based on the not sure if that was,
The walkway is not really on.
I was gonna say, it's not on here, so I don't think we need to.
So Wes, there was no reference to a deferral on the path. The path's addressed in paragraph 2.
Yeah.
So if everyone's in agreement, we can just add a sentence that says that the applicant can submit a request for a deferral to the Board of Commissioners prior to appearing.
I'm fine with that, especially the way that we approve these. We're kind of approving them as a more of a generic. I mean, you've seen the. Okay. Do you? Yeah. Sorry. It's everything we've talked about, everything that Brian just brought up, and everything that Dave just brought up, including with the exception of the walkway, which was discussed, and we just concluded how we would address that. Yes. So it's still going to the board. This is just the motion.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, no pressure like having people watch you read.
So, are you?
Yeah.
Then number two, just, will be in deferral. Cause if you're not done
Yeah.
before we record the plan.
That was what, solicitor just added.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, really great.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, do I have to read the motion?
No, if you basically are just making a motion to recommend conditional approval of
That's what I-
2550.
That's
Route
correct.
100, yes, instead of reading the detail, it references this document.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made, is there a second? Second, all right, so we have a properly second motion, any discussion? Anyone from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Hearing 5 ayes. Motion.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, you appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that is everything on our agenda. At a lot of our meetings, we've asked for just a brief update on any existing projects that have either gone all the way through the Board of Commissioners or are at the Board of Commissioners. Any updates on that front? Nate?
I can, and by all means, please, Mr. Tranguch, Mr. McAdam, do not hesitate to chime in here. We are working with the applicants continuously on 617 North Crocs, which is the mixed-use project on North Crocs, as they finalize and work towards a solution of the traffic signal that is over on Citronia Road in Upper Macungie Township. Once that item is handled, we do expect that that will be back in front of the Board of Commissioners. We are also working with the Red Maple Acres mobile home folks on a timeline for a public hearing. However, I'm sorry, but for their plan, but we are working towards trying to take care of items that were discussed here at the Planning Commission level, at the staff level, with input from the township engineer, Mr. Russo, Mr. Tranguch, myself, regarding the design of that area. So that is also currently in process. Those would be the ones that I can think of right now immediately that are of most discussion point that are heading to the board. And then, of course, these now leaving Planning Commission, we would expect to have in front of the Board of Commissioners for their consideration in the upcoming month or so.
Perfect, appreciate that update. All
Is
right.
there anything else, gentlemen, that I might have missed there?
Not for me, thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
For a second? To a second, discussion? Oh. You got me, Brian, you got in discussion, I was like, ah. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye, we are adjourned at 7:25.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Have a good night, everybody.